Mr. President, in the next few days, we'll begin the debate on this important bill on sex trafficking. This is something that, for whatever reason, the country turned its back on for too long as the ways to communicate, the ways to offer so-called adult services grew. The government and law enforcement didn't have the new tools that they needed to fight back. You know, this is a bill that Senator Portman and others have worked so hard on this side of the building. We're actually taking up the House bill. The House bill that the principal sponsor was Missouri Congresswoman Ann Wagner, who I work closely with, who's been a good friend of mine, she and her family, for a long time. When the House passed this bill overwhelmingly, Ann Wagner said that they sent a clear message to trafficking victims that you are not alone and justice is no longer out of reach. Hard to imagine a more lonely place, I would think, than someone who's being trafficked, some young woman, young child, man or boy or girl who's fallen into the hands of traffickers who, for drugs or whatever reason, has been sold into this or become dependent in a way that put them into this. Congresswoman Wagner went on to say about this bill that it will produce more prosecutions of bad actor websites and more convictions and put more predators behind bars. She said it will give victims a pathway to justice and provide a meaningful criminal deterrent so that fewer businesses will ever enter the sex trade and fewer victims will ever be sold. I mean, the whole idea that we're selling people to be used in whatever terrible way someone else wants to use them is so offensive. The idea that we'd have websites that you could go to and have some description of some person who is helplessly in this system and how they would be used is something that Congress should stand up on. The House, voting for Congresswoman Wagner's bill, has already done that. On our side of the building, Senator Portman and others have worked so hard to draw attention to the fact that we need to find time to get this bill on the floor. Well, now we've got a bill that's already passed the House. All we have to do is pass that bill and send it right to the president, or make some changes that Senator Portman and others may want to suggest that send the bill back to the House, where hopefully it could be dealt with in the same overwhelming way they passed it the first time, and get this bill on the president's desk and do just exactly what Congresswoman Wagner said this bill will do. It's time for us to do everything we can to end this. We'd be foolish to think that one piece of legislation ends this, but working with law enforcement, looking at trafficking, looking at locations like the intersection of major interstate highways where it's easy to bring people, to pass people along to somebody else, to get them to where not only they're disoriented, but your actual contact with that person doesn't last very long before you give them to somebody else or sell them to somebody else who can use them in a terrible way. This needs to stop. And next week, I'm confident, Mr. President, the Senate will do that, and I would just say it's about time.